Welcome to Masterpiece Tarot. My name is Tala. Here, you'll find timeless messages to guide your soul's awakening. If you're here, trust. You're meant to be. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like the videos. It does show support and it helps my channel grow. Thank you, Spirit, for allowing me to channel messages for the highest good of the collective. All right, welcome in, everybody. My cats are really wound up because it's raining and they're used to being outside, so they might make some noise. So in this reading, I think what I'd like to do is explore the topic of the road to reconciliation. So I've put this card here, this Two of Cups card, and what I want to do is get out some cards to start, and then we'll do like a masculine, feminine. We'll start with feminine, I guess. We'll do feminine first, and we'll do masculine. And these don't have to be counterparts. Just want to see what's going on in the energies. So in the first, in this first area, it will be like the main card. Okay, so main card for feminine. Then we'll look at an opportunity, and then we'll look at a challenge, and then we'll look at an action to take. Okay, and then the first thing I want to do, though, is get out some of these cards. So thank you, Spirit, for assisting me in bringing through these messages for the collective. What would you like for us to be focusing on today as far as our soul lesson? Let's get two of these cards out. These are like going to help us understand what lessons we can be thinking about for this growth of the soul. Humor. I choose to focus on the lighter side of life. Okay, nice. All right. Nice. Honesty. I can't always expect the truth from others, but I can expect it from myself. All righty. And then we'll also we're going to get a couple of manifestation cards as well. Nurture. What else, Spirit? What other cards? Let's get one more of these guys. Direction. Alrighty. Yes. Okay. Alright, and so now we're going to look at feminine. And we'll get clarifiers out too. Well, since we're on the topic of humor, I have to tell you guys, I was listening to a reading earlier today, and it was for Pisces. I'm a Pisces. And this reader's like, oh, Pisces, your readings are making me so tired. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, no doubt. Like, that's how I've been feeling, like, she's like, this reading is making me tired. I'm thinking, I bet I'm making people tired. I was yawning a lot yesterday. You just gotta laugh at yourself sometimes. All right, Spirit, let's cut this deck, actually. So, if I make you tired, I apologize. Alrighty, here we go. So here's our main card for feminine, the Magician. Feminine is manifesting. Yeah, I like it. And then we've got, for an opportunity here, a soulmate, focusing on a soulmate connection. Somebody who helps you see yourself, somebody you can have fun with and be lighthearted. Somebody that is familiar. You just have that kind of comfort with that person. Challenge is a fire sign masculine here. We've got a King of Wands. Can also just be the energy that's embodied by the King of Wands. So this is somebody who is ambitious, very ambitious. They're a king, so they're a leader. and they take strong action toward their desires. And an action to take a Page of Wands. Another fire sign, but this is a student. This is studying more. This is more about, this opportunity is like maybe being a little bit more, less action oriented, a little bit more observant, studious, circumspect, something like this. Yeah, we'll get some clarifiers here. Okay, so again, this is all about reconciliation. So moving toward some type of a reunion. And I pulled this Two of Cups here, but I was thinking about pulling the Three of Cups instead, because I'm interested in both, like just the energy of reconciliation in general, but I feel like more people will resonate with the Two of Cups. So anyway, but the idea is that I'm wanting to explore in this reading, that I was just feeling drawn to pull on. It's kind of getting those intuitive nudges about, you know, after there's sort of a rupture, or a separation, or, you know, something where trust is broken down, or there's just a coming out of alignment, you know, two energies coming out of alignment. What is this moving back into alignment all about? Yeah, so I'm just going to read the energy now. So we've got a Queen of Cups. Whoa, here with the Magician. A Wheel of Fortune. And Death. Okay. So the main card for feminine is this Magician. So what I'm getting here, in the context of the question, the reconciliation, you know, feminine, perhaps, in this main energy is currently manifesting her wishes and desires from the heart. And there's also an understanding that inevitably some things are going to have to be laid to rest with this Death card. That there are going to be endings, you know. As we shift, certain things end so that other things can occur, come into being, come into existence. But this Wheel of Fortune reminds us that, you know, this karmic wheel is something that is governed by like universal law. It's not something, I mean, it is something that we have control over as individuals, but in the grander scheme of things, it's always turning and it's more of a collective thing or a divine thing. And so there's sort of this surrendering, this releasing, you know, control of how things are going to turn out. So, you know, you can have a desire for a reconciliation and you can take action towards that from the heart. But I think in this case, our feminine understands that there are certain things that are just outside of her or their control. And so that there's honesty in that, which resonates with that card there. And it's also about direction, you know. It's forward movement. It's movement in the direction of progress. Yeah. Okay, so let's now look at this opportunity with the soulmate. Somebody who, you know, soulmates, they are really lovely. It's nice to meet a soulmate, somebody that you resonate with. And we have so many soulmates. We have soul families and soul tribes. All right, we have the Chariot, so there's a sense of momentum with this. It feels like, you know, being with a soulmate can be preparation maybe for a reunion or for the next step in life. You might even reunite with a soulmate. All right, we've got a Five of Pentacles. This can be like a feeling of lack. This can also be health issues. And then we have an Ace of Pentacles. That's that prosperous new start. Opportunities. Opportunities. I think there's an opportunity to accept an offer from the divine of a pentacle here. This allows people to move out of lack and move quickly in that direction. Now, you know, the other thing that I was noticing, we have 6 cups, and here, if you add up the 5 and the 6, we have 6 pentacles. So, you know, when I'm thinking about accepting a pentacle from the divine, I feel like it's kind of mirroring this idea that, you know, love is something that we can generate from within ourselves. And by the same token, no pun intended, I think we can generate abundance as well, but it is a manner of manifesting it. So there is an opportunity to manifest abundance here. But I do think that in order to do that, we need to tap into the divine. We need to use our intuition and visualize what it is that we want, and be earnest in what we're asking for, and be, you know, honest and realistic, honest right here, about what our needs are. So yeah, this could be an opportunity for this new start, okay, with a soulmate. And, you know, sometimes when you partner up with somebody, you share the load, so you can actually spread your resources a little bit more. You know, you can shoulder the burden together, and your resources can stretch a little further. Yeah. So I think that's what the opportunity is about. It's about manifesting abundance, as well as love. Yeah, and partnering it, like, you know, like soulmates can just be your friends, people who get you, who understand you, who kind of, you can talk to them and they can give you support. You know, if you're like, the road to reunion, so to speak, can be a little challenging at times. If you have to go in and, you know, within yourself and look at your shadows and see where maybe you've contributed to a rupture and make some changes. So it's nice to have friends with you on the journey here. It's an opportunity to connect and receive support. Okay, tell us about the King of Wands here in the challenge position. A barrier. Strength. Page of Wands. And the Ten of Cups. So somehow this is a challenge on the road to reunion. Well, perhaps there's a fire sign masculine who is quite strong and who in some way opposes. I'm seeing these two wand energies opposing, going in opposite directions here. and one's older and one's younger. So I sense this could be like a parental-child rift or something. And of course the parent is going to have more pull or strength. They can exert a lot of power over a youngster sometimes. And the King of Wands can be quite ambitious. So if, you know, this road to reconciliation somehow is in opposition to what the King of Wands wants to see happen, then that can be a barrier. Yeah. I think another barrier might relate to the fact that the King of Wands sees that this is sort of imminent. Like, here's the Ten of Cups. Like, it's right there. It's in the offing. It's in their peripheral vision. And maybe there's something about it that this individual doesn't like. Because I'm not getting any other thing other than an individual here. They might see that this Page of Wands, who's moving into this union, this could be our person who's moving into this reconciliation or reunion or whatever. They could see that this person is quite determined and strong to have this Ten of Cups, and maybe they feel like their power is being usurped or somehow overthrown, or I don't know, something like this, something to that effect. I don't know what that would be about. Maybe we could get some more energy on that, because I really don't know why that would be the case. There might be some kind of internal family dynamics or something at play. And an action to take, we have a Page of Wands. So looking at this passion, looking at this action, looking at the steps that one might be taking to move toward reconciliation. Knowing you want to go in that direction, knowing you want to take action. The Page is studying what to do. They haven't quite started doing it yet. The Hermit, a Two of Cups. Oh my goodness, you guys, these cards. Okay. What are we studying? Well, for one thing, we're studying ourselves with the Hermit card. We're looking within. We are learning to use our intuition and follow our North Node. That's like a star light, inside of that lantern, which represents somebody's own intuitive pull toward, true north, their highest timeline. What else are they studying? Love, connection. You can do this in a heart-centered way. You can look at emotion. You can look at connection through the lens of emotion. You can look at it through the lens of logic. You can look at it in terms of the physical. You can think about how you're going to communicate. And here with the Judgment, I almost feel like at the end of this little cycle of the Page being a page before he levels up into the Knight, where he's going to take some action, I feel like at the end of this period, there's this judgment that happens where the trumpet is sounded, people rise up out of their coffins, they put their arms out and they, ask to receive divine guidance. They ask to be led by the divine. They are asking to be guided, to have their steps ordered, to, surrender in a way. Yeah. I love this little part of the read here. I think that's so cool. Yeah. Okay, so on the feminine side here, yeah, we're manifesting, we're leaning on a support system if we've got one. We can find one in a soulmate, perhaps. We're thinking about manifesting abundance, manifesting love, thinking about gaining some momentum. We're looking at challenges, which in this case seem to relate to this individual here, our masculine fire sign, Leo, Sagittarius, Aries. And then here in the action, we're deep diving into self and asking for spiritual guidance. And then we'll do like the same thing for masculine. And guys, these are not necessarily related. I just want to get the masculine energy. We all have both of these energies within us, so take what resonates, you know. You can always flip the genders. There's no gender in tarot. Okay, main card for our masculine. Somebody's working away, working. Yeah. Eight of Pentacles. Opportunity. Maybe some healthy competition. Maybe strengthen the, you know, the, what do I want to say? Maybe strengthen your resolve. Maybe strengthen your body. Yeah, get in shape, so to speak. You know, not just physical, but mentally and emotionally. And we do that sometimes by like sparring with others. Challenge. The sun. Okay. Maybe it's challenging to stay happy. Maybe it's challenging for so much to be exposed, you know, as you're moving along this pathway. Sometimes, like, the light just comes, you know, pouring in, and it illuminates things so much so sometimes it can be a shock. I remember I had something like that happen when I started practicing yoga a long time ago when I was younger. And I had, like, you know, the Kundalini awakening thing, and the energy just rushes up the body, and, you know, it can really expand the consciousness quickly, and it's really powerful. And so that's what I'm getting with this sun here. Something like that, perhaps. But let's start at the beginning here. All right, so masculine's building. Remember, this is all about the road to reconciliation. Alrighty. The Hanged Man, the Tower, and loss. Okay. I kind of have the feeling here, one of two things. Our masculine is either rebuilding, and this might be a period where he's focused on very little else other than work with the Hanged Man. Okay, he's rebuilding after a tower, and he's maybe grieving as well, some loss of something. I think I'm just going to have to read it that way, because we're talking about reconciliation. So, yeah, this could represent the separation, the rupture. Something's collapsed. There's a sense of loss. We could also, I guess I will say it, we could also read this as somebody was overly focused on work, and as a result, you know, this occurred. I would put the Hanged Man in a different position, though. I would put it like over here. Like, I was working so much that things at home fell apart. Then I felt sad, and so I had to take a time out and think about what happened. I need to get some insight. because sometimes people overwork as a way to distract themselves. It's an avoidance. If you're an avoidant type person, or if the person you'd been dealing with was an avoidant, and work is a great distraction, something like that could be going on here. Okay, opportunities. We're talking about using healthy competition as a way to, whoops, not that duck, strengthen one's skills and abilities, and maybe even build confidence, I have a friend who says that, I don't know if it's true, but he said that men, masculine energies, are by nature very competitive. And here we do see a lot of masculines competing. And that, this is a way for men in a group to establish some type of, I don't know, understanding about maybe their place in the group. I don't know if it's about a hierarchy or if it's just about individual roles that people play within a group. Some people are natural leaders, others are natural followers. People have their niche skill sets and things. Here's the opportunity. So we've got a Nine of Pentacles, a King of Cups, and Justice. It could also represent, although there are all these individuals on the card, if you think about Gestalt psychology, sometimes, what that means is that each one of these could represent an aspect of self. So you might have, parts of yourself that are competing with other parts of yourself, and a lot of those dynamics are formed through whatever is happening in your family of origin, dynamics between mom and dad, the siblings, the extended family, this kind of stuff. So we have here, a King of Cups. This is a loving masculine energy. And over here we have a Nine of Pentacles. So just as an example, this is a little bit of a stretch, but I'm going to do it anyway. These could reflect aspects of self in that there could be an inner father, a loving father figure who was there or who was not there. And, this Nine of Pentacles could represent, as an example, a single person, somebody who's ready to add that 10th pentacle. This could be like a child in the home, or this could represent, the self as you're preparing to leave home or enter into, a new career path or something. And so the opportunity might be to reconcile these different parts of self, because on the road to reunion, we have to rearrange things sometimes. We make sacrifices when we're trying to find that middle ground with another person. And so there could be an opportunity to release control and allow these parts of self to become rearranged a little bit. Like for this masculine here, if he was big on work, money, 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 but if that presented a conflict at home, there's an opportunity to look at that part of himself and maybe rearrange those parts of the self. Maybe there's a part of him, like this King of Cups, that he could embody more of to bring more balance on this road to reconciliation. And so if this is foreign to him, or if this is doesn't come as easily to nurture the King of Cups, or to embody the King of Cups, this is something that he or they could nurture within themselves. And why would they want to do that? Because they want reconciliation, of course. That's what we're reading on. So, yeah. There is a need to be honest with yourself about why there was a tower, maybe. How you can rearrange things in your life to be more accommodating, to be to find that middle ground, to be considerate, to maintain or to strengthen the connection. And, you know, with the Justice card here, this is about fairness, balance. And this kind of rearrangement, it's making a decision to do that is an example of being fair to the relationship, you know, treating the relationship with a sense of, I want to find another word for fairness. Maybe it's equanimity. Yeah, maybe that one. Maybe that word. So that's the opportunity. And let us see about the sun. Why is this a challenge? What is challenging about the sun here? We've got an Eight of Cups, a Queen of Swords, and a Page of Pentacles. Well, the first two cards seem really clear to me. So we're talking about the sun illuminating certain truths. You know, things about maybe how you contributed to a rupture or, you know, this separation. And so if it's, for example, if it's overworking that was a major contributing factor, then you're going to need to walk away from that to some extent. You know, you're going to need to walk towards a more balanced state. Maybe we're walking toward that King of Cups energy that we're going to try to embody, to be more present. And this does require decisiveness. You know, there has to be some sense of clarity about how you're going to change it. You know, I'm going to come home at 6 p.m. on Mondays and Wednesdays instead of 8 p.m. so that we can have more connection, whatever. Okay, something like that. And then the Page of Pentacles here. This to me speaks of, you know, if there is a separation, like let's say it was a marriage or something, sometimes when there's, or even a divorce, after a divorce, you know, we're talking about in this feminine side, just as an example here, how when you team up, you share the load, the burden. But when you separate, sometimes you kind of slide back a couple of notches in terms of your savings and how much you're pulling into the household. And so there's a sense that you're kind of not totally back at square one, but, you know, this could be highlighted on the road to reconciliation. You know, this masculine might not have quite as much as he'd want. In fact, he's not even really moving yet. He's just sort of looking at his pentacle. He's not even up on his horse, like on the Knight card and en route. He's just sort of pondering it all at this point. And then our final card here, this lack, this being out in the cold. Somehow there's an opportunity in here, so let's find out what it is. And now we have a Four of Pentacles. We've got a Devil. And we've got Sneaking. Seven of Swords. Well, as I look at these cards here, the best card on here is the Four of Pentacles. There's something stable in the energy here with a Five of Pentacles, somebody being out in the cold, maybe having health problems, maybe being in lack in some way. We've got a Devil. So this is about binding, this is about deception, deceit, entrapment even. And then we've got a Seven of Swords. You know what I'm getting really strongly for this masculine that we're reading for? It goes right to this point here with the Honesty card. Reconciliation. Let's say this is part of the Tower that came down. This energy. I mean, I'm not going to try to guess. It's going to be different for everybody. Okay? But you get the picture. All right? There was a devil. There's somebody being sneaky and cheating and lying and stealing. And there's somebody out here in the cold, on crutches, broken down by this devil because they broke themselves down doing all this, okay? So with honesty, first and foremost, being honest with yourself, seeing things for what they are, not burying your head in the sand, being accountable to yourself for your choices. And then if we're talking about, on the road to reconciliation with another, bringing that same level of honesty. I think that if rebuilding trust is, part of what's going to rebuild a bond that maybe was broken, then you have to come with truth. Yeah, there's a risk in it because you don't know how somebody's going to respond or react. But it's the right thing to do. Continuing to hide anything at this point. If somebody has questions and they're like, what happened? Continuing to hide things is the same as staying in this energy with the devil and the sneaking and the lack. Because the lack is, now there's a lack of trust. After all of this energy here, you wind up with a deficiency in, trust. It's like the fabric of the relationship is in tatters. Instead of, clothes that, really protect against the elements, we've got something with tatters and holes, and the elements can creep in those little things. The wind can blow right in, and not even having a sock on in snow, that's kind of what it can feel like when there's been a major breach. But I think the beauty in all of this, for people who are on a spiritual path, is it's not easy to make these choices. These are hard choices to make. But forgiveness is always available, and you forgive for yourself. You don't forgive because you want something from the other person. You're not getting the point of it if that's what you're thinking. You forgive yourself, and perhaps if you get to that point, you make a choice to do the right thing. But yeah, and so that happens through nurturing yourself, forgiving yourself, remembering where it is that you're going. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to your true north, your north node, the highest timeline? Because that's a choice that's available to you. There is a sense that you're going to have to surrender the outcome, You don't get to control how somebody else reacts when you, or responds when you come with this kind of truth, if this is resonating for you, masculine. But this is a lesson for all of us, when we're trying to rebuild trust, or get back in alignment with another. And I think, it's not just about being honest, but it's also about demonstrating change. There has to be like a demonstrated change over some time, like a consistent effort at rebuilding. And that takes like a huge shift in a person deep down to do with, considering the other, releasing selfishness, releasing fear, being of service, seeing things as they truly are, not as you want them to be. There are certain spiritual truths that just are. So, and I think we're looking at one of them right here, which is this Two of Cups. Yeah, really beautiful. Because these people are in communion with one another. And there's a sense of balance. There is this symbol here. I don't know, I'm forgetting what it's called. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But I think it's in medicine. We use it in medicine. Abacus. No, what is it? I'm forgetting. But there's this sense of like these infinities, like this intertwining. And it also reminds me of like DNA strands, which we understand that, we carry things that are generational, and we need to heal things that are not just from our own lifetime, but generational. But then the beautiful thing is, when we do that, we're setting things up for the future generations. It's an act of service that leaves a legacy. I mean, it's in service to future generations, which is a legacy, which is really beautiful, So, that's our reading. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in another reading. Bye for now.